All right. Like I said, I think tonight's draft, I think a lot of people are trying to sell themselves on it. There's 3 dudes that are for sure. All right. What happens tonight? I'm going to go over the drama here with Zander here. Going to be a great night tonight. By the way, they do a great job in the morning, and you guys must watch that show. It's Birds 365. Let's bring our boy in now. Big Z, Zander Krause. Let's bring him in here, man.
What's up, Sills? How you doing, brother?
All good, brother. Man, appreciate you doing this here.
Sorry I'm late. I had a little production work I was working on there.
Gotcha, man. Well, shit, anything to get the production going up here because today's going to be a productive day, to say the least here, too. So, if Mike Green's there at 32, would you take him?
Absolutely. I would run to the podium. I'd take him before Nolan. I'd take him before Starks. I would take him before maybe anybody that we talked about. Now, I think that kid is damn good, man. You watch him on tape, He's got 4 moves. He's probably the most polished player defensively in the draft. That's looks on tape. It's never a guarantee, obviously, but looks on tape like he's going to be ready for the NFL day one.
Don't you agree that, to me, when I hear outside noise about somebody, I've got to be convinced in my own process and what I do and how I go about it. The Eagles have had numerous guys that have had, I like to call dents in the fender. I believe in the Eagle process and how they vet guys. I believe in Big Dom. I believe that if that guy gave him the green light to go get that guy, I'm going to take that guy too. I think if I'm praying by the way, if he falls down to 27, I would move up to potentially get him.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think he'll fall that far. I think he's going to Atlanta at 15. I think he's a perfect fit. They've been looking for an edge rusher for how many years? I think he's a perfect fit in Atlanta. I could see that.
And Raheem is a guy that would overlook that.
Yep.
If the intel, so would a guy like Rich McKay and those guys, they would overlook that kind of stuff.
I'm not going to lie. That situation with him bothers me.
Like how
I'm not trying to be insensitive to maybe the potential victim that's out there, if there is one. But are you seriously going to tell me that this guy is going to get cost millions of dollars and a reputational damage and all of these things on something that's never been even filed, addressed, made anything bigger than basically hearsay? I mean, that kind of stuff absolutely drives me insane, drives me bonkers. So the kid can flat out play. All the legal stuff doesn't even seem like it exists. So, yeah, that bothers me, though. I'm not going to lie to you.
It's like the matter is the stuff.
Yeah, it bothers me. Exactly. And that kid's in the league. That kid was supposed to be a draft pick. He was supposed to be one of the best punters ever taken in the draft. Yeah, bothers me for sure.
Especially when you come back and you find out even the district attorney goes, he wasn't there and it had nothing really to do with it. They threw his name into the conversation and they never even pressed charges against the kid.
Yeah, I know.
I do too. And I think that's got a lot to do with age and stuff.
I think what matters more with it is what you said of the decision making. Like you got to try and get as much inside the player's head as you can of we all make bad decisions when we're dumb. Let's be real. But
and are you accountable?
Right. Are you accountable? Where did you go wrong? What happened? And again, I don't even know if anything happened. I mean, seriously, that's one of the funkiest things I've ever heard that, a couple assaults, but there's nothing filed. There's been no legal anything on it. It's really an odd situation.
And they suspended, get this, and they suspended him after he transferred to Marshall. Like he was already in the process of leaving Virginia to go to Marshall.
Yeah.
Then they suspended him because
they suspended him. Was there something that was real and tangible there? Like that's where this is where I will
already out the door.
Yeah, I'll let Big Dom and the team figure out whether he's worth it or not. But to me, he is 100% worth it. I don't think he's going to be anywhere near there at 32.
All right, I got some Eagle draft night drama for tonight.
What do you got?
Up, stay, or down? Where are we going tonight?
My gut instinct is go up. because I think if you get to even 27 or 28 above the Commanders, I think that improves your chances greatly at one of your guys falling, whether it be Walter Nolan, whether it be Shamar Stewart, whether it be Ezeraku, whether it be Nick Score, and whoever the Eagles have their eye on in round one. I think that improves your odds greatly to get the guy you like. Now, if you sit there at 32, there is a chance that all those guys are off the board. Like legitimately, you're looking at, much lesser players at 32. But I think conventional wisdom would say move back because, they talked about how few grades they have in first round. So the other thing that would make me happy, like if you're going to move out of 32, all right, if we can get 2 picks in top 50, you're not going to get 2 picks in top 50 from trading out of 32. But if you move 32 to 40 and pick up maybe another 5th rounder or whatever it would be, a 4th rounder maybe, and then take that 4th or that 5th, couple it with another one of your already 5 5ths at your 4 5s that you already have, package that with 64 and move 64 up to the top 50. Now you have 40 and 50. Now I feel pretty good about having 2 picks in the top 50. I think that would be the best case scenario if they were to trade out of the first round.
Follow me here now on what you just said. So Walter Nolan, this is where right now the range is for him. 20, being picked tonight. 32, 26, 8.
8, I saw that.
38, 39, 12, and 22. What does that tell you about them? Half the league likes him. Half the league thinks he's a lower end draft pick. The difference, like when you look at Hunter and Abdul Carter, 2 or 3.
Right.
Cam's going 1. There's 3 dudes in this draft, and only 3 dudes that are not falling out of that top 3. I got a guy here who I'm looking at could be the 8th pick in the draft or the 39th pick in the draft.
Right.
Boy,
that's crazy.
A big swing, dude.
Can I ask you what you think of that? I mean, you have more experience in this than me. That would lead me to believe that information is missing. Teams are skewed on what they've seen on the player. Some people are buying the traits. Some people might not be buying the traits. Like, what do you see when you see that? Because you don't a range that big for a player that, when the range, it's one thing to say a guy could be 30 or 80. That's different. When you're 8 or 40, that's a big range and a big drop as well from the top of the draft. What do you see there?
I see half the league likes the draft. The other half thinks they're a bunch of second rounders being taken in the first round. Let me ask you this about Nolan, how I see this. You think Nolan's a better prospect coming out of college than Jordan Davis was?
Nolan Smith over Jordan?
I mean Walter Nolan.
Oh, over Walter Nolan. Over Walter Nolan.
Walter Nolan?
I actually think, I do. Because Walter Nolan still, for as good as he is, he does have some holes on the tape, man. He does have some holes on the tape where you see, I mean, I know he's got great traits and you can envision what he would look like next to Jalen Carter, but it's not all perfect.
No.
And Jordan Davis wasn't either. But I think when you thought about Jordan as a nose and the size and the speed, I think people looked at him as a much more polished, whether they were right or wrong. I think
Jordan Davis is a better athlete too.
Yeah, coming out. Yeah, he was. So coming out, I think Jordan was viewed higher at the time of the draft. Now, maybe you could look back in hindsight and say he won't be, which is fair. But at the time of the draft, I think he was.
I think he was a better prospect. And so if I'm looking at a guy who was overdrafted at 13, it should have been taken at 22. And I'm looking at Walter Nolan and I'm going like, you know what, man? I don't see that guy as a better prospect than what I saw a guy 2 years ago.
Yeah, right.
My own guy on my own team. Is he going to be better than that guy?
Well, I think the difference with them is they play different positions, kind of,
Well, I
like
think they envision Jordan playing the 3 technique.
I think they did when they drafted him that eventually he would get to that point.
Yeah.
I think right now it looks like Jordan's not going to get to that point. So maybe you go to Walter Nolan because Walter Nolan's kind of the opposite of Jordan. He's a perfect 3 technique with pass rushing ability, a guy you can probably line up 3 technique, 4 technique on the outside, kind of like a Brandon Graham, but more of an interior base versus an outside base.
And bigger.
So, right, exactly. So I think in a way, Walter's different. I mean, if you have Jordan on the field, the thing I like most about Walter is he gives you immediate. I think he's going to be immediately or within the first 12 games, 80% as impactful as Milton Williams was last year because of his skill set and because of who's playing around him. Now, the Josh Sweat thing is going to be interesting because if you take Walter in the first round and you have Nolan on the other side and still Jalen Carter in the middle, that helps. But remember, Milton did have Josh Sweat on the outside last year, who was kind of an every down type of an edge rusher who could play the run, play the pass, and do all of those things. So now you have a question mark there in terms of, I'm high on Jalix, but is he an every down edge this year? I don't know about that. Uche, Ojulari, and if you spent your first on Nolan, you're obviously not getting one of the top edges in the draft.
Would this be a crazy take for me to say that I think that Jalix Hunt might have a better career than Nolan Smith?
No,
because he's big. Hold on, because he's bigger, and he'll hold up better because he is a guy that has more raw talent than what he has, and again, his availability will be more of a staple for Vic to use. And don't you see, when you see Jalix Hunt, don't you see Josh Sweat more than you see Nolan Smith?
I think I do. I think you're right. I think you might be right about this. Jalix Hunt might have a higher upside than Nolan. I mean, also factor in the injuries.
Not talking shit on the kid. I'm
no,
just
but
saying.
Factor in the injuries, factor in the size, factor in all of those things. You might look at Jalix Hunt as a guy that has more staying power for a longer period of time.
I didn't know he was 6'4".
He's a big dude, man. Big dude. And he's putting on weight too now. I mean, he's getting bigger. Remember, he started as a safety SEALs in college. Crazy. So he hasn't had a lot of time to transform his body. You know, and you see that a lot with NFL players. You can remember the one I think of that comes to mind really big for me is TJ Edwards. You remember when he was an undrafted free agent and came to Philly, dude was tiny. After a couple of years of bulking up, he was huge, So NFL guys, their body changes in those first couple of years. I think that's fair. Jalix could have a higher upside.
I'd like to have seen him at Georgia where he would have went in the draft.
Right. What would he have looked like at a premier school?
I want to show you something here. So he went to some place called Houston Christian.
Yeah, Houston Christian. Yep.
And he's a 3rd round pick. So if he would have went to an SEC school, you telling me he would have been a 10th pick?
Might have been.
Wow.
I think if you put him in, I think if you gave him the Kirby Smart a couple years prior when he was at Colgate. Wait, was he Colgate or Cornell?
Oh, Cornell, I think it was.
Cornell, I think he was. Yeah, it might have been Cornell. I think Kirby would have said, "What are you doing at safety, dude? Get down there. Get on the edge. What are you doing, man? Your speed, you got power, athleticism. Get on the edge." And then I think he probably would have maybe came into the draft with a better frame and a better build, better profile, better draft profile. So that's interesting to think about, though, right? I mean, who is this year's Jalix Hunt?
Yeah.
A Houston Christian guy that's got big upside, that doesn't really get the name recognition because of where he played.
And he still went in the 3rd round.
It's funny.
He was drafted ahead of Josh Sweat.
Doesn't Mike Green kind of fit that billing a little bit?
That's where I got that take from.
I mean, he's a Marshall kid. He played at Virginia, but
he looks like that guy. He looks like Mike Green, Jalix Hunt. I'll tell you this. When they put him in there to play and set the edge, he was not an issue like Bryce Huff was. Bryce Huff was a liability out there in the run game. This guy was not a liability. That may be one of Howie's greatest picks. I think that guy this year, by the end of the season, I would not be shocked if he's starting.
Who, Jalix? Yeah, I think he's going to. I think right now, I think he's probably your starter right now, right? I mean, over Ojulari or Uche. I think so.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Now, John keeps telling me they do not want to go into the season with those guys as your starters. So maybe they're not as sold yet. By the way, I love this comp right here by Mr. International. When I see Jalix Hunt, I see Josh Allen in Jacksonville. I think that is a perfect comp. A guy that's really quick around the edge, great athleticism, speed, power. Yes, exactly. Can get to the quarterback. That's a great comp there, Mr. International. Well done.
Here's James Pierce's ranges. 24, 36, 21, 16, 23, 37, 44, 27, 32. Again, you're all over the board here. I mean, I think people have talked themselves into thinking that there's a bunch of guys in this draft, and to me, there's a bunch of second and third round guys going in the first round. Here, let me show you something here with Josh Connerly. Josh Connerly's right. This sounds right. 33, 23, 30, 34, 32, 27, 23, 34, and 31. That guy's evaluated correctly. He's at the bottom of the draft.
Yeah.
He's a safe pick. And everyone in the league looks at him. Get this. Josh Connerly is the safest pick as the top 3 guys of I'm not saying those 3 guys are going to pan out. I'm just saying that's what every evaluator looks at with the top 3, and they look at Connerly as being a bottom 5 guy. Here's Maxwell Harrison, cornerback. 38, 35, 33, 27, 43, 53. These are picks. 38, 29, and 37. Man, I get my corner in the second round there?
Yeah.
I mean,
he's an interesting player. Did you hear what he said about the Eagles too down there in Green Bay? He was talking to Devin Jackson from the Inquirer. Just great work. He's been on Birds 365, and he said, I love my meeting with the Eagles. You can tell why they're a Super Bowl organization. They are serious. They're about their business. So I thought that was an interesting comment from a prospect on his meeting with the Eagles. That was Maxwell Hairston. Let me ask you something about James Pierce, because I really like this player. I think he's a guy that produced at such a high level consistently in the SEC. I know that's not a guarantee that you're going to do it in college, but I like him too. I mean, I think he needs another pass rush move. I think he's got to, work on that second move and third move when you get in the NFL. But do you see a red flag on him? So it was a couple of weeks ago or a couple of months ago at the combine. Remember, he ran that quick 40 at that 4.44, whatever it was. And, you saw him top 10 in some mocks. And now I feel like I'm seeing him way down the board on most people's mocks, including guys like Albert Breer and Daniel Jeremiah, who are not saying they're better than everybody else, but they are plugged in with NFL teams. Daniel Jeremiah is friends with Howie and a couple of GMs like that. So I don't know. I think it's a little bit of a red flag.
Jeremiah was a former scout.
Yeah, for the Eagles. Yeah, he's boys with Howie. He gets a red flag a little bit.
I think he's been productive for 3 years. I think that, when you watch him and you see his production, the only issue that I would have with him is that his frame he's a slight guy a little bit, I mean, 6'5".
He's definitely slight.
40. He's not really, I mean, I think, and I've seen this with him, he gets washed off the edge a little bit. He's not a spectacular edge setter. And if you're going to have him playing out there, you better have somebody like Milton Williams, or you better have somebody like Sweat that's setting that edge and having him play behind. One of the reasons why I think the Eagles got away with not being elite at the perimeter was because you had great edge setters. You had guys that were setting the edge and look at the Super Bowl. You didn't blitz. Your front four got home the entire night.
That's one thing Nolan. Yeah, Nolan is actually really good at that, setting the edge and against the run. He's better against the run.
He plays bigger.
He's good against the run. That was actually what he was originally, did a lot of at Georgia. If you go back and watch his Georgia tape, he was a beast at stopping the run. Now, it obviously has to transit to the NFL, but it has for him so far. So, now you're not wrong about that. Not that, by the way, isn't that a question on Jalen Hunt?
Yes.
Right? I mean, right now you got speed, you got the power. It looks like you have the athleticism, everything you need, but are you going to be able to play the run? Are you going to be able to set the edge and do the things to make you a 3-down edge? I think that's probably the bigger question remaining on Jalen Hunt, because last year, as good as he was in the small time that he played, he was a rotational piece. He didn't have to set the edge,
But my equity that I spent is only a third rounder and not the 32nd pick. So, I mean, we're talking 5th-year option. We're talking more money.
There's a couple of people who hate what you said about J-Look's having a bigger upside than Nolan, and I just don't think they're understanding what exactly you mean. If you factor in where Nolan is in his career and the damage his body's already taken, and you project out the next 8 years, I don't think Sills is saying J-Look is a better player right now. But if you tell me which player do you want for the next 10 years, I don't think you'd be crazy to say, give me the guy that's never been injured at the high, who hasn't reached his ceiling yet at all from an edge rushing standpoint, who still has a long way to go.
You still don't even know what he is.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I don't think that's crazy at all to say.
And he was, get this, and he was more of an impact in the postseason on your Super Bowl run than Bryce Huff was. A guy you gave a $17 million contract to, who everyone said was going to be a project. How about this? Would you not agree? The biggest surprise in the draft and how good he was Jalix Hunt.
Well, for the Eagles?
Yeah.
Well, you could say Cooper, man. I knew Cooper was going to be good. I don't think we expected him to be that good.
I don't think a guy from Houston, whatever it was, I thought that guy was 3 years away from playing.
I know you did. You didn't. By the way, you didn't like that pick very much. No. And I was with you. I'm not saying I loved it. I was like, "What the heck is this?"
John thought he was a project to him. By the end of the year, he was being productive.
Yeah. Well, most people thought he was a project. Let's be real. That's how he was. That's how he was basically promoted in the draft. He was a project player. So, no, there's no doubt about it.
We got Jason Cole coming up at the bottom. We're going to get to those supers in a minute. What did you make of what I said here? At the Eagles, let's say they don't draft a tight end, or they draft one in the 5th round.
I'm moving up from 64 to take Mason Taylor. Give me 64, package in a 5th, whatever it takes to get to 50, and take Mason Taylor right around 50. Come on, man. What are we going to do? What are we doing at this position?
So my question is, how high do you think they're going to draft the tight end in this draft tonight?
Well, that's what I want.
Or this weekend.
Yeah, that's what I want them to do. It doesn't mean that's what they're going to do. I don't know. This is a weird one because, they haven't brought, or at least publicly, we don't know of any tight ends that they've met with. They haven't brought in any on top 30 visits. They did sign Harrison Bryant and Kylan Granson. Now, you can be like me and not believe that those guys are the fix, which I don't. But they did bring them in and haven't brought in anybody for the draft. So I don't think it means that they're not going to draft a tight end, but maybe it would show you they're not as worried about the tight end as we are. And I don't know what that means with Dallas Goedert, but it's an interesting thing, man. That's why I say just go get this Mason Taylor kid. 6'5", 265. I mean, I think this kid's going to have, big upside. Somebody commented yesterday, Zander's a dumbass saying he looks like Dallas Goedert. I'm like, he's not Dallas Goedert yet. You guys got to go back and remember. See, people grade Goddard now and then look at Taylor and say they're not. No crap, they're not the same. When we drafted Dallas Goedert at a South Dakota, at a North Dakota or whatever it was, he didn't block at all in college. Nobody asked him to block in college. He was the best receiver that team had. So when we drafted him, he was a player that caught the ball only. But because of his skill set, size, athleticism, and power, he became a good blocker. I see all those same traits in Mason Taylor. He's fast. He's pretty big. He's not undersized at all. He's got a good frame. I think he's going to grow into his body even more. I could see Taylor better. And, Big Bird, a lot of people like Fannin. I like Fannin as a receiver. I don't love him as a blocker. I don't see that type of upside for him. So I'm not really huge on Fannin. I won't lie to you, Big Birds.
Yeah, but be careful because that quarterback coach was the former head coach of his. That could play a factor in this thing here on draft night tonight where they take him in the 5th round. So keep an eye.
Let me ask you something. You think Howie Roseman, who loves the ego and he gets from you think he's going to hire a new quarterback coach from Bowling Green and let him make a selection for him in the NFL draft?
No, I think he's going to give him a little bit more insight, and we're going to find out tonight.
Well, that's true.
But we're going to find out how important. Well, I think Nick, his relationship with the head football coach Toledo, that might have swayed him on getting Q last year.
Maybe. That's not a bad thought. Yeah.
Okay.
I think we talked
That's where I got
it.
that from.
I'm just saying it's not a guarantee they're picking up this dude. Yeah, because of
What about my cosmetic look for your team this coming year? What if they're doing this? Why don't you just get rid of the 3rd wide receiver spot? Go back down to being a tight end dominant like Harrison Bryant. Get another blocking guy. Put a fullback in there. Go fullback set. 3 wides. You protect your quarterback. You protect your running back. You're going to have more time to throw the football, which gives your quarterback a chance to sit back in the pocket because he holds it and allows the routes to develop. Look what they did in Baltimore last year. They got rid of the third wide receiver. What's his name? Threw for 4,100 yards last year and 40 touchdowns a season ago. And he almost won another MVP.
Yeah, right.
And you would improve your pass game. I mean, what about a cosmetic look like that? Because Howie admitted he fucked up on the third-round trade with the Commanders by not picking up that fifth-year option.
No, I don't know if he admitted that. I don't know if
he didn't.
Well, because they were never going to pay.
Lost the third-round pick.
I know. Well, you got a fifth back, so it was a swap. I'm with you. Third's way too much to give up, but they were never going to pick up. What was the option on him? Like $15 million?
I don't know.
So even if he like had freaking 800 yards last year, they weren't picking that up because they're.
I'd like that third rounder to go get a tight end, maybe. Then
I'm with you that I wouldn't have made the trade, but I don't think that was news that he was not, that they weren't picking up his option. They were never picking up his option.
What would you grade that trade?
C.
A C for what they want. Well, the reason why it's probably right.
If the Super Bowl didn't exist,
they don't expect much out of that position.
But if the Super Bowl didn't exist, it'd be a D. But because you make a big catch in the Super Bowl, that's enough for me to give you a C. No?
That catch in the Super Bowl covers the third-round pick you saw.
Yes, that motherfucking catch covers everything he did all year long where we were like, God damn it. I mean, that was the only catch I needed from the guy all year.
Wait a minute. What was the score of that game? I forget.
I don't know, 40-0.
I'm sure that touchdown catch had an impact in the game.
Well, hey, it was one of the first plays in the game.
I'm sure that would have stopped the Eagles from blowing them out. Hey,
that defense that defense wasn't letting anything.
Last one here for you here, brother. Let me go here with this. Then we'll get to the supers here. Goddard, Huff. You think they're second and third day trades?
Goddard, no, because the financials of it just simply don't make sense yet. I mean, you're going to probably move him. I wouldn't be surprised if Howie went stubborn on it either. So don't rule that out completely. But if you cut him or trade him now, you're losing $9 million. If you wait till June 1st, you're picking up $4 million. It's a $13 million swing. I don't think they're in that pressing of a mode to get rid of Goddard just to eat $13 million. I mean, they're not going to do that. So I don't think Goddard's going anywhere. Who's the other guy you said? Dotson?
No, Huff.
Huff, probably not there either, just because you very little you get back. And the other thing is, with that room being so weak, you might want the body.
I said this: if I got
$18 million camp body, have you ever heard of that, Sills?
let me just say this to you, Zander.
If
I got 5 sacks out of that guy this year, I would be thrilled.
All right, give me over under 3.5. What do you got?
I think he's going to get you over that.
I do too. I think he's going to be a little better than that.
I do, because I think the teams are going to try to throw the ball more on the Eagles' defense this year, especially they're going to try to test the right side of that defensive secondary because of the corners and the safety being gone. Okay, they're going to Zander, they're going to test. What side do you want to test, the Reed Blankenship side or the Q side? Yeah, or do you want to go the Sidney Brown and Keely Ringo corners? I mean, where do you think you're going? Okay, right.
Well, you're gonna pick on Sidney Brown and Keely Ringo for the next 4 months until this season freaking starts. I don't know. Did you see the rumor now that they made a call about Jalen Ramsey? Now I don't know if I'm buying it. All right, I really don't. I mean, this guy was mad at Vic Fangio last year for the way he coached him in Miami. The Eagles play a zone-based.
You sure that wasn't Xavier Howard that was talking more shit?
It was Xavier Howard who's talking more shit, but
I thought it was Xavier Howard. I heard Ramsey say some things.
No, here's the interesting part about the Ramsey conversation. So Darius Slay started his career in Detroit, obviously, as we all know, and he played a ton of man corner. He was a man corner when he came to Philly.
Yeah.
He switched out of that in recent years because of the change to the Eagles defense, right? That, I think, hear me out.
Ramsey.
Hear me out.
Oh, wow.
Hear me out. How many years did Slay add to his career by going to a zone-based system versus getting burnt in man at 32, 33 years old?
He was terrible.
So if you're Ramsey and you're 30, you might look and say, hey, man, I know I love the zone, but I'd rather make 12, 15, 14 million for the next 5 years than make 20 million for the next 2.
It's easier to play.
Better system. I'm not as relied upon. I can plug and play. I can be the veteran leader. I got good young players around me.
And
It
what
might
else?
make sense from that perspective.
And what else? Ramsey may have thought some different things when he was in Miami. Vic proved him wrong this past season. Hey, dude, you want a fucking ring to go along with your legacy?
Yeah.
I told you I was right.
He is a buttercup, though. He's a buttercup.
But remember something. Remember, what's his name? He wasn't all thrilled with playing that type of defense right away, Slay. Because Slay believed he was a man guy. He wasn't. He was getting dude, they were calling him Toast Slay in Detroit because he was getting killed. Let's get to these Zoopers before we get to our friend.
That mother effer ain't no leaders in. I just meant the communication on the defense, bro. He's seen a lot of football, Ryan, whether you like the guy or not. Yeah, he's played a lot of football at a high level.
Jalen Ramsey is a great football player.
Yeah, he can teach our young boys some things, no doubt.
Yeah.
Brandon Snyder. What's up, Brandon Snyder? How you doing, brother? Is this going to be similar to the year Eagles traded a late first-round pick to the Ravens for them to get Lamar to get an extra year on the contract if Shedeur drops? Maybe. I don't know if people are that high on Shedeur, though, man. I really don't. Seems like it's all going the other way for Shedeur.
Isn't it funny how everybody's rolling towards my way of thinking on him now than they are rolling? And by the way, I don't care about any of the things about his dad. I think that's a positive. I don't think it's a negative. I just don't like some of the mannerisms he has. He never plays on time, and I happen to agree with that. And I just think, again, I when I watch him, do I see special? I don't. I mean, dude, who had a harder season a year ago? Jackson Dart. And by the way, I'm not even.
Can I
play in the Southeastern Conference?
I want to take my cake on one thing. A couple of months ago on this show, when we were talking about the NFL draft, I said, keep an eye on Jackson Dart. I'm not saying he's this great prospect, but he's a guy I could see doing some things at the next level with the right coaching. Now the draft is here, and all of a sudden Jackson Dart's going freaking 9 overall.
Can I tell you why? Because what they started doing is they started watching Shedeur's tape, and they put on Dart's tape, and they go, what's the difference? One guy's playing against tougher competition week in and week out.
Yeah, right.
One guy had a better offensive coordinator with him. I know he had Shermer, but down there you had Lane Kiffin. And the numbers were compatible. If everything is equal, wouldn't you take the kid that played against tougher competition versus the other guy?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, that's why Dart's gone up the board. You know, that's why he's gone up.
Yeah. Yep. You like Dart?
No.
I model my game after Jalen Hurts.
That's probably why.
I model my game after Jalen Hurts.
That's probably why. Actually, he throws for more yards, but it's okay. Don't go right.
He did. He threw for 4K last year in college. Pretty good stuff by Dart.
Yeah,
Brian Pope. What up,
Jalen's more the guy from Army. Go ahead. Let's see here.
Oh, God. Super Bowl MVP. You got to be kidding me.
Hey,
Brian Pumper says, there are some rumblings that the Ravens are in love with Mason Taylor, how he might need to move up. He'll definitely have to move up to get Taylor. You talking first round, though, Brian?
No. Hey, Brian, are you sure it's not Joy Taylor or Mason Taylor that they're in love with? Because I'm telling you, I think they want Malachi Starks to play next to Kyle Hamilton. That's who I think they want. I think they want to put that safety kid back there with him.
I want to take one more chance to shred the chat because we did a mock draft after Birds 365 today, and these dudes in the chat gave me some of the worst picks you'll ever see, and we ended up with the worst haul of players the Eagles could imagine getting in this draft. So Pumper, Abe, Flexen, Sig Lord, Cody K, all the guys who were in there this morning, tragic performance. Abe said, that's my fault. Abe, I'm blaming you and you only, brother. Come on, man.
Funny. That's funny, man.
Kyle says Mason Taylor reminds me of Zach Ertz. I could see that. I think
he's a late bloomer too.
Yeah, but I think Mason Taylor's got a little better athleticism. He moves. Man. He's pretty quick. He's pretty quick.
Yep. I like the kid too. I'm biased though. I like the kid.
All right, here we go. Pumper Project 89. This guy loves Johnny Wilson. Johnny Wilson couldn't catch a flick pass in the Super Bowl.
Oh yeah, that's right. The big hands guy, the tight end FSU kid. All right, yeah.
Brian says, Jordan Davis had plenty of holes in his game coming out of Georgia. He just plugged them with donuts and sugar.
Hey.
Rashid checks in. Rashid says, Sills, what grade would you give if Eagles somehow got Nolan, Scorton, cornerback Porter, trade a 5th and a future late pick for Meg Mayer, and sign Simmons after the draft. That sounds like a pretty good haul right there to me.
Rashid, remember something, and I'll say it one more time.
Pie in the sky, but
okay, but here. These guys tonight, when you pick them, will not have a helmet. They'll not have shoulder pads. They'll not have stepped on an NFL field yet.
Yeah.
To sit here and for me to say, tonight, what a shitty pick at 32. Can't do it, dude. They don't even own a helmet yet.
I know.
It takes
You're right.
3 years of evaluation for anybody to take a look on whether the kid's going to be a good player or not. So again, I mean, now you can talk about dressing needs and all that other stuff, finances, and I got all that. But I mean, come on, man. This draft has so many ranges. Like you saw Walter Nolan from 8 to 44.
I think that's the most interesting part of the draft. There's,
it's drama.
15, 20 kids that have ranges like that, including the quarterbacks. So, the main thing I'm watching on quarterbacks front is, are the New York Giants going to take Jackson Dart? So we'll see what happens with Dart, the late hype on Jackson.
Oh, God forbid if you start saying that you want it because, hey, listen, I know we're getting a Stanford guy on, but God forbid you say this shit. I like Jackson Dart over Shador. Racist! And you're like, I know, I like the guy better. I mean, holy cow.
All right, Sills, I got to run, brother. I appreciate you.
Got you, man. All right. So we're going to try to elevate the conversation because of my education and not this next guy's education, even though he went to Stanford. And, he seems that he uses bigger words. So let me get my thesaurus out. Is that how you say it? So let me get this. Here it is right here. This guy, Jason Cole, our dear friend for over 30 years. 30. Wow. Almost 40 years.